Hello, people of YouTube. Rich from PCGamesN here, and I'm joined by Deputy Editor Ben.
Hello.
And Games Editor Matt.
Hi there.
And Destiny 2, pretty big game, coming out on PC in about a month and a half, but we've all been playing it on console, just to give you our brief takes. And one thing that I've noticed about our opinion in the office is that it sort of mirrors the opinion that I've seen elsewhere, in that it's pretty split. Like, I feel as though if you've already played Destiny 1 and you enjoyed it, then you'll like Destiny 2 because it does nearly everything the original does better, but it doesn't do anything different, which is why that people who didn't fall in love with the first one generally haven't done so with the second, and that's you, Ben, basically.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, yeah. Yes, it is. Well, let's start by listing all the things I do love about Destiny. So,
Okay.
the environments.
Yeah, they're stunning. Oh, right, okay.
That's
Good.
That's the end of my list.
Good one.
But they are good environments. No,
Yeah,
I came to the game genuinely with an open mind. I didn't get on with the first one. I did the kind of curve of starting the game, tailing off, getting a bit bored, and then the Taken King came. I got back into it, and then again, same thing, and I left. But this time I was, excited because everyone else is excited. Any fans of the game, people like you.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be good, and it started okay, I think, when I got into it, but very quickly the same irritations crept up on me. So chief among them, bullet sponges,
Right.
which I can't handle.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that it. So like I said, there's a lot of things that it does that I had hoped it would smooth out from the first one. That it's that is still there. So bullet sponge bosses are one. Although we'll talk about the Nightfall in a little bit, which I think obviates that problem to a certain extent. But then there's also the grind after the campaign, which is more interesting now because of the way the environments are designed and public events work. So that's improved slightly, but it's still fairly monotonous. And enemy AI in the middle of the campaign, like the campaign slumps a little bit in the middle, I think. We share this opinion, I think.
Yeah, it's got, it has an interesting kind of start. It starts far more akin to Bungie's previous games, like Homecoming as a mission, which I'm fairly sure pretty much everyone's played to death now.
Yeah, between the betas.
And you guys at home probably have played it if you've had a chance to go in the beta when it was on PC. But it was an interesting design. It got NPCs in it and stuff like that. And
if only that happened again.
Yeah, it never happens again for the rest of the time. And yeah, it does. When you leave, I think there's still a little bit about the EDZ that's got some of the new magic to it. The moment you leave it and you go kind of like to Titan and then sort of like onto Nessus, it very quickly seems to devolve into being the same sort of structural crutches that Destiny relied on. You get to the final sort of section of the campaign, and I'd say those last maybe 3 to 5 missions genuinely become something. Now, have you got this far, Ben?
I haven't. I got as far as IO.
Right.
And sort of
so you're literally on the doorstep of it turning back into Halo, basically.
Which sounds appealing, but I don't think I can get over that doorstep. It's a lot of grinding.
This is a point that I'm prepared to sort of forgive Destiny 4 to a certain extent, because I think all MMO games, and whatever Bungie have said about it in the past, it clearly takes influences from the genre. I think they all struggle with this a little bit. I remember that Guild Wars 2 had a similar problem back when I played WoW, which is a long time ago now. It had a similar problem in that all the content needs to be replayable, right? Enemies need to be able to respawn all the time, and because they spawn in an open world and they have to be able to react with that open world, it's kind of hard to script interesting behaviors for them in the same way that it's easier with like corridors in COD or in a dedicated shooter. So I think there are some forgivenesses to make about the enemy AI in that respect. But that said, yes, when you're in the open world sections of the game, like in Titan, Nessus, and IO, you've got just wave defense and carry this thing from over here and put it over here, and it's all very, very repetitive. But as you say, Matt, like the last few levels in the campaign are stunning, especially visually. Like
I wouldn't want to spoil that for anybody because if you get there, genuinely, I think the second to last kind of mission is set on something I've never done in a video game before, and I don't think I've seen it in a film before or anything like that. It is genuinely something that I was gobsmacked by doing it.
My mouth did fall open.
Yeah, and then following that, you get some really incredible kind of cutscenes. Then you go into like a really decent kind of last sort of stand, basically. And I did. By the time I got to the end of it, it reminded me why I personally am a big fan of the Halo games. And it was the thing that reminded me what I really like about Bungie is the fact that they do tell interesting stories in cinematic ways. It's just that basically, I think the genre that they've created doesn't always that they're using for Destiny doesn't always fit what Bungie is super great at.
Yeah.
Because the thing is right. So I think that we look at Destiny as being a shooter, but technically, actually, I think its closest relative is Diablo. It is
Sure.
The way that it's a dungeon crawler. It's the way that Diablo basically just chucks enemies at you. You click, 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 and it's that cathartic sort of element of clicking on things until they explode. Then you take their loot and then you move on.
This is we were talking about this yesterday. This is why I think people struggle to sort of categorize Destiny and why it has disappointed so many people depending on what their expectations are, because no one really knows what the correct expectation is to have of this game. If you compare it to a tightly designed shooter where you're expecting clever enemies to throw grenades to flush you out of cover, or to take cover themselves, or to have a challenging single player campaign, then you're going to be disappointed. That's not really what it offers.
No, not at all.
If you want challenge, it's after the campaign that stuff actually gets good and interesting. So yeah, let's talk about the Nightfall Strike, because we both played it. And in the original game, the Nightfall Strikes were basically just ordinary strikes with the difficulty sort of flatly cranked up by enemies taking less damage and dealing more to you, which was so painful to play. But this time around, they've added a couple of... so that they changed that a little bit by introducing new mechanics in the original. They've doubled down on that this time around with things like the Prism modifier, which rotates active elements so you do more damage when you're attacking with the right element at the right time. And things like that. That created these really sort of tense and exciting moments at the end of the Nightfall where you're waiting for Void Phase to kick in, and you're on tenterhooks saying, "Can I stay alive?" And then you're taking the right opportunity to drop your Nova Bomb and do your supers on the boss and finally bring him down, and it was great.
Oh yeah, we had a wonderful. I mean, it took us for the first attempt that we did it when we actually finished it for the first time, like maybe 8 attempts to get there, possibly more, and it genuinely was this sort of like. I remember you describing it. It was almost like Souls-like when we actually finally did it. It was like defeating a boss in Dark Souls.
Sure, but see, to me, every time so I haven't done Nightfall. I haven't done this particular, and it does sound intriguing and different and interesting compared to what I'm used to. But every encounter in Destiny is about numbers and progress and loot and a sense of achievement, but never, to me, really fun. There's not a lot of fun to be had other than last night I stood, just as an experiment, I stood in a section with Vec coming in and found a little spot with a choke point on a bridge. This was on not Io, the planet before that.
Nessus.
And I just shot them standing still. 5 minutes until I ran out of ammo.
You can do that, and that's not fun.
No, and it's not fun. And I was playing on my own, which doesn't help. That's not good. But it just I very quickly reached a point, and I did with the first game, where I just think, well, all I'm doing is pushing my progress, but I'm not enjoying the process. And whilst it's amazing seeing each new environment, and some of the story is okay, if riddled with cliche and a bit heavy-handed.
It steals from Star Wars incredibly, and I think it's very blatant of it. And I think it sort of enjoys being as upfront about the fact that it is stealing from Star Wars as it does, especially towards the end.
Maybe. I had personally hoped for more in that respect, because some of the lore of the original Destiny is really, really interesting. I thought they were trying to create something really new and original and exciting, but then
you got Darth Vader instead, right?
Then you got basically Darth. Well, actually, I don't know that's fair. I think Gaul is one of the more successful characters. He's
triangle rebreather.
Sure, visually, but as a personality, he's driven by insecurity and this need to prove himself, which I thought was really interesting. But he does trot out the ultimate villain cliche, which is like, we're not so different, you and I, or something similar. And you cringe inside when you see that. You hate to see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of heavy-handedness, but it's just, it doesn't pull me in. We had this split with the first game as well, and it makes me feel like a pariah, or like I am missing something very obvious, because a lot of my closest friends adore the game and love it, and I do feel like I've got something wrong. But then I go back and play it again like I did last night, just because I knew we were making this video. I'd already decided I've had enough, but no, I'll play a bit more. And thinking I must have made a mistake. But it turns out I hadn't. It's still boring, really boring.
I think the key difference between sort of like you and I, which is why I've taken to it and you haven't, is not to do with the fact that you didn't get it or anything like that. No, it's the pure fact that kind of like, as you say, you're meeting those like miniature milestones and you're getting gear and stuff like that. And if you don't actually enjoy the moment-to-moment gameplay of Destiny, that's going to feel like a grind. I kind of like, a lot of people talk about the grind of the kind of the campaign and get to there, and I personally never found it a grind, and it's purely down to the fact that I love the gunplay of Destiny. It's very similar to Halo, and so taking that enjoyment into it, I just love the feel of the weapons, and I feel that every time I go into a combat encounter, I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. So it's not even the promise of loot. It's just I actually enjoy the activity of shooting stuff in Destiny.
That is something they've
and that alleviates the feeling of grind significantly. If you're enjoying what you're doing moment to moment, which I happen to, then you'll get on with the game. I think if you can't enjoy that very cool repetitive loop, it's kind of like, I know the multiplayer games that you love, and essentially they are doing the same things over and over.
Yep.
But if you enjoy the gunplay like, as you do with Rainbow Six Siege, you're happy to kind of constantly do that repetition all the time. If you don't enjoy the shooting in sort of like, and the enemy actions that you get in Destiny, then just the entire rest of the game is redundant then, basically, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the problem, though, that I agree with you, the gun feel is wonderful. The weapons feel great to shoot, and they look great. But the other half of the equation, my sense of affecting the enemy, especially if it's one of the giant bullet sponges, is so minimal that it's immediately not enjoyable for me. And even smaller enemies, even if you come back after leveling up back to the European Dead Zone, and you can get a headshot and you can get kills in a couple of shots, it still doesn't feel great, and it's still about numbers. It's still 100 enemies
both your
rather
points,
than.
And given all of that, I'm not sure. I mean, if you know what my shirt symbolizes, you probably know that I played the original. I think I've worked out I just had 600 hours in it, which is crazy. But like, so with me, the appeal is not so much, I don't feel affection towards Destiny exactly. I feel maybe addiction because I'm so compelled by the game loop. Maybe fascination because it's such a weird experiment that succeeds in so many respects and then fails in others, and I want to wrap my head around it and figure it out. It's a fascinating thing rather than an affectionate thing. One counterpoint that I would raise: we haven't been into the raid yet. Me and Matt will be going in tomorrow. Can't wait to see what that's going to be like. The only thing that I would mention, because we'll wrap up in a sec, is PvP. Right? If I ever feel like I'm bored of the grind, I jump into PvP because I do enjoy a competitive shooter, and PvP I think offers something that is genuinely quite joyful when it works well. And the changes that have been made to PvP this time around are great. Like they lend the game a little bit more to team shooting this time around, so it's harder if you're solo queue. But if you don't do that, then the balances that have been made to the weapon categories and to the ability cooldowns and things create a very, very competitive game that is nicely paced, rewards skill, and is a great deal of fun. So I just raised that, but neither of you guys are too much into that side of things.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Hannah, you play Siege, right?
I switched to Siege rather than Crucible. I did play some multiplayer in the first Destiny, but again, I didn't find it hugely engaging, and it's certainly it's partially a taste thing. I don't tend to enjoy the kind of fast-moving, everyone for themselves multiplayer, and I really enjoy Siege, and I love the variety you get out of the components of that and the strategy and the slower pace. So probably from the very beginning, I'm not well suited to enjoying Destiny, but it's I just don't think there's enough variety in terms of my experiences. Well, the available experiences.
That's stunning to me, because I was just about to say that Destiny has something for everybody.
Yeah, I think it has the same thing for everybody over and over again.
I disagree. I think you have to persist with the campaign to unlock things like the Nightfall and the raid if you like challenging PvE, and that can be tough to stick out if you don't enjoy the campaign. And then if you like competitive PvP, then it has that as well. And there's some open world activities too. It's the challenge that Destiny has, that it's trying to appeal to everybody. It's trying to be a universal game, which is why so many people are drawn into it, and then some people bounce off because they don't find what they want, and then other people are drawn in. Maybe that's a good note on which to end. If you guys had any other thoughts or comments?
Not from me. I am enjoying what I've got, and I think the thing is I'm really looking forward to it coming to PC, because as much as I've enjoyed my experience with it on console, I do know that kind of like it's the sort of thing that I want to play on my PC. I can see myself being part of a community on PC in a way that I wouldn't be on a console. PC
will help it a lot, because you want 60 frames per second for that multiplayer. You want the glorious environments to look at their best.
I mean, I can still get pleasure from Destiny. My pleasure comes from watching you guys enjoying it. Your face at your desk brings me happiness.
I'm glad
as your jaw drops. Yeah, so I've got nothing against Destiny. It's just not for me, and I will carry on playing Siege.
Fair enough. There you go. Hope that was illuminating for you. If you know you're the kind of player who might enjoy Destiny, then it's probably worth your continued interest. But we'll have a fuller verdict for you on October 24th, and you can read my personal in-depth thoughts on the console version on the site right now. Like, share and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.